Today we're talking about one of the most helpful tools for sewing, and that is the walking foot. I've had several of you ask about a tutorial for this tool, so that is what I'm going to do today. This is a tool that is really useful, especially for my fellow beginners. So we're going to go into all of that today. If you've ever struggled with fabric shifting or stretching or getting that little puckering in your seams while sewing, the walking foot is going to make things so much easier for you, and I wish I had known about it much earlier in my sewing journey. In this walking foot 101 tutorial, I will cover what the walking foot is, how to install it, how it's useful, and I'm also going to share tips that I have found personally that has made using a walking foot so helpful. So what exactly is a walking foot? It is an accessory that comes with certain machines, not all of them. It is one of the reasons why I got the machine that I did, because the original machine that I first started sewing on did not have it. It was very basic. But it essentially is an amazing tool because it helps working with things like stretchy fabrics or quilting, matching up kind of patterns and things like that so much easier. And that is because unlike the presser foot that's on the machine here, hopefully you can see that. In fact, I'll just remove it really quickly. This only has, it doesn't have any feed dogs on the bottom here. It's just relying on the feed dogs right here, which the feed dogs work by kind of like a conveyor belt like this. So back and up and back and up, all right? So that's why, obviously, that's how it moves. It kind of moves in a circular motion. With the walking foot, there are actually, I don't know if you can see these two white parts right here. They act as the feed dogs on the bottom of this accessory, so that essentially you're dealing with feed dogs on both the bottom and the top layer of your fabric. So when you are sewing and you are putting fabric under the presser foot, with a regular presser foot, as you can see, you're only dealing with the grips from the bottom feed dogs. So only the bottom layer of the fabric is gripped, which is why you can kind of like slip around with the top layer. But with a walking foot, when you do that, not only are you having this bottom layer being gripped, but the kind of pseudo feed dogs on the bottom of the walking foot acts to grip the top layer as well, which makes it a lot easier and gives you a lot more control, which is why something like using it with slippery fabrics like jersey or kind of lycra, which I do not recommend for beginners, would be so helpful because it gives you so much more control rather than kind of slipping around and having the fabric go all over the place. Some examples where you'd really want to take advantage of the walking foot would be quilting. So if you're putting together quilts, typically you're dealing with a lot of bulky layers, kind of like you'd have like batting and then fabric and then another piece of fabric on top of it. So you would need, you need to have, more layers to have control over. So that's why a walking foot is great for that. Secondly would be things like, as I mentioned, working with slippery fabrics, jersey, kind of stretchy fabrics, because they are notorious at going all over the place and being difficult to control. And you kind of get wonky seams and puckering seams. It can be very frustrating. The walking foot makes it much easier to work with those type of fabrics. All right, I've zoomed you in really closely so you can see very clearly how to do this. But essentially what you're going to do is you're going to remove the presser foot, which I've already done. I think the presser foot might have gone flying off somewhere when I was doing this, so I'll find it in just a second. But you're going to go ahead and remove this mechanism using this screw right here, because we're going to be putting the walking foot on this this side here. The left hand side goes on the left hand screw. The right hand arm goes on the right hand pole arm here. Does that make sense? So to start off with, you're just going to loosen it, and I'd already quite loosened it already, so it might not go as quickly as that, but there you go. There is the mechanism removed. I will find my presser foot in just a second. Under ideal circumstances, you would have them together. And now what you're going to do is you're going to remove the walking foot here. I'll move my finger out of the way so you can see. Okay. I'm going to squish it right here. And you're basically going to fit that little arm, little section here, not the arm, the little part right here. And you're going to screw it in with the screwdriver again. So you're just going to move it like this. But you also have to have this part attached to this pole. So when you tighten it, it makes sure that it is tight enough for it to move. So after a few turns, I can just go ahead and do it manually with my fingers. It's just much easier to do it that way sometimes. And at the very end, I will go ahead and I will tighten it. But it's much easier to do it that way. So, all right. And now it's pretty tight on there. I mean, it's wiggling a little bit, but it's not bad. And so that is how you put on the walking foot. And to remove it, it's the exact same steps except in reverse. So you would just loosen the screw, remove it, and there you go. Now I'm going to share with you the tips that I had mentioned early on in the video. The first is that with a walking foot, you never want to back stitch. What I recommend if you need to lock in a stitch would be to move forward as usual. So I'll just show you here. All right. And then you can actually lift your needle up, bring it back, sink it back in, and stitch again, just to give it some security there. And finally, as you can see, this is regular cotton. So a biggest kind of pro tip I would have is you can use a walking foot with your beginner projects with regular cotton. You don't need to have, stretchy fabric or anything like that for it to be useful. Let me show you so you can have an idea of what it would look like to have this work on regular cotton. I'm going to start stitching. Did you see how smoothly that passes through? And it's very controlled. There's no kind of shifting. It's very, very controlled and easy to maneuver the fabric. That is why I recommend it for beginners. And then finally, as you can see, this is regular cotton. So a biggest kind of pro tip I would have is you can use a walking foot with your beginner projects with regular cotton. You don't need to have, stretchy fabric or anything like that for it to be useful. Let me show you so you can have an idea of what it would look like to have this work on regular cotton. I'm going to start stitching. Did you see how smoothly that passes through? And it's very controlled. There's no kind of shifting. It's very, very controlled and easy to maneuver the fabric. That is why I recommend it for beginners. So there you have it. That is the Walking Foot 101 tutorial. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more videos like this. I also will include a card here for the video on how to install the regular presser foot, if that's something that you're interested in, because that will hopefully help you as well. So until the next video, keep on sewing.